yet another one of his rambling diatribes of the politics of the day. Now, overnight, we finally got an agreement between all parties in the Senate involving the coronavirus relief package. Now, before I get into what I'm going to say, let's read up on this. This is the stimulus package that has finally been agreed upon that they're going to vote on today. This is from Axios. White House and Congress reaches deal on $2 trillion corona relief package. After days of intense negotiations, the White House and Republican and Democrat Senate leaders struck a bipartisan deal early Wednesday over a $2 trillion stimulus package designed to ease the economic impact of the corona outbreak. Why it matters? The emergency legislation that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell promised to pass later Wednesday will deliver vital aid to workers, small business, corporations, healthcare providers under strain from the illness, which has infected more than 55,000 people in the U.S. and killed more than 800. The state of play. The White House Legislative Affairs Director, Eric Ueland, told reporters just before 1 a.m. that a deal has been reached, but the bill's text is still being finalized. Ladies and gentlemen, we are done. We have a deal, Ueland said. Between the lines, Democrats nearly derailed the negotiations over the weekend to secure key provisions in the Senate Republican bill, and those efforts seem to have paid off. The new stimulus measures included several priorities Democrats pushed for, including more money for hospitals, increased worker protections, strict oversight in how the money is being spent, more state funding, expanded unemployment insurance, and the creation of a Marshall Plan for the healthcare system. Oh my God, such radical things that you were all bitching and moaning about, weren't you? Here's what is expected to be in the final bill. Those specifics are subject to change because its final text has yet to be distributed. Direct payments. The bill will distribute up to $1,200 to Americans in the form of one-time direct deposits, $2,400 for couples, $3,000 for families of four. The payments will be phased out based on income levels. Small businesses. Small businesses will get $367 billion to keep making payroll while workers have to stay home. Companies with 500 or fewer employees will tap up to $10 million each in forgivable small business loans to keep payrolls flowing, the AP notes. Federally guaranteed loans will provide 8 weeks of assistance for qualified employers who maintain payroll. Those who meet the requirement would have costs such as utilities, mortgage interest, and rent forgiveness. Unemployment benefits. $600 per week will be added to the normal state benefits for up to 4 months with an extra 13 weeks of benefits. Adding up to 39 weeks of regular unemployment insurance through the end of 2020. Pardon me. The coverage will be effective January 27th. The deal extends to gig economy workers, Axios notes. We got more, and I'm just pouring. Very important to pour instead of chugging. Healthcare and social services. Blah, blah. $242 billion will be set aside in additional emergency appropriations to fight the virus and shore up the safety net programs, per the AP. It'll fund public health providers, including hospitals, the CDC, child nutritional programs, food stamps, and transportation agendas. The industry. The final number for big business and airlines is still up in the air, but Republicans are seeking $500 billion in loans. Provisions against potential employer abuses are also still subject to negotiation. Payroll taxes. The measure enables individuals to defer payment of their 2020 payroll taxes until 2021 and 2022. State and local governments will get $150 billion, with $8 billion set aside for tribal governments. The timing. The Senate vote on the bill will be expected later today. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that she wants to pass the measure in the House via unanimous consent. If there are no objections to the deal, the bill will fly through the chamber, essentially as soon as today, though a vote Thursday is more likely. However, if just one member objects, the House could be forced to return from recess to vote on the legislation in person. So that's what we have, at least the details that we get from Axios. Now, here's what I was going to say before this deal was made. And even with this deal being made, and it's going to get voted on, it doesn't change what I was going to say if I did this video the day before. You fucking people, all of you, from Donald Trump to the Republicans to the Democrats, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why is it taking this long till we get to this point? Now, I know we have political machinations that goes back and forth. We've seen that reported. But this is people's lives. Some of y'all may think you're meaning well, but to do your back and forth adding shit into bills that has nothing to do with what is being required here, but people are suffering, and the reindeer games was more important. You see, this relief package would have been a godsend if it came up just clean. The original idea people appealed to when it was just $1,000 direct deposit for the people, and everything else that came with it involving the businesses and so forth that are all suffering. When we hear about, the Democrats holding this bill up, or the Republicans holding the bill up because the Democrats pushed too much pork in it, or the Republicans pushed too much pork in it, so the Democrats held it up. That doesn't infuse us with confidence that any of you give a shit about us. I mean, what did we hear? Let's start with the Democrat side here. One of the flailing hands things that were people talking about how the Democrats were slipping in like abortion right issues into this. That has nothing to do with coronavirus, and that's just being radical and so forth. That they were pushing in election policies like same-day voting and procedures for online voting and mail-in voting, which again that was deemed radical because obviously has nothing to do with the coronavirus in its abstract, and it's just the Democratic agenda. Maybe people mean well if that's true that was being put in. Maybe people mean well for doing it because everyone slips something into every bill. We can have a bill about a highway overpass construction, but that's great. But in the midst of all that infrastructure, then there's just like a little something about immigration that has nothing to do with any of that. So yeah, that's your basic politics. But in this instance, during this crisis, unless it's absolutely needed for the problem, if someone is holding up a bill because you're adding this shit in, that's not just on them holding it up, it's on you for adding it. So, Democrats, cut the shit. Maybe you mean well, but cut the shit. On the Republican side, there were no there are no innocent people in this. There's no one not pushing their own agendas. And when we hear abortion rights on one end, we see pro-life policies also being slipped on the other end, which also gets identified and checked. What we see in the bill, the $500 billion, the Democrats saw as a slush fund when it was not being oversight, when it was just in the bare bill that McConnell was bringing out. There wasn't anyone looking over their shoulder as to where this money would go. It was described essentially as a $500 billion, essentially blank check to Donald Trump and Steve Mnuchin to do whatever they wish with it. And the thing about that is that without there being any oversight, no one would know up to 6 months where any of this money would go. And then it would be too late. They knew the deal needed to be done. They knew the relief needed to be done. And I'm glad they finally got their shit together. Some of the stuff that they complained about, at least on the Democrat side, is still in this. But it is in this while there's also hammered in the stuff not only that they wanted, but also the oversight. Someone actually itemizing where things are going, including this $500 billion for industry, for big business, for wherever it's actually going to legitimately go. Because lest we forget, dear viewer, that when we were back on the immigration issue a year or so ago, money was allotted for the building of border security, including reinforcing, current border walls or border barriers, shall we say. And money was set aside for this venture. They didn't build anything with it. In fact, of the money that they put for this, only 6% of it was actually allotted and used. The rest of it was allotted, just wasn't used. And where did that money go? We don't know. So, that's when you think to yourself, well, geez, this passionate, arm-flailing politics of immigration where the scary caravan was coming and we better defend our borders immediately, kind of falls flat when the money that's being put into it doesn't get there. So yeah, I can understand the Democrats' point of view of wanting to make sure there's someone looking over the shoulder and there's a bean counter there confirming where $500 billion would be going. So yeah, that's a good win for the Democrat side in these little reindeer games. But still, these are still fucking reindeer games while people are suffering. Upwards of 55,000 cases of coronavirus is now in the States. Either we have hit 800 deaths, or we are above 800 deaths, or we are just rising to 800 deaths. Depending upon where you go and what's the count. So we go from saying fuck you Democrats, we go you saying fuck you Republicans. Now let's go to the head snake oil salesman. Say fuck you Donald Trump. It may be my derangement, but I have no idea why anyone feels so much confidence that gives him a positive job approval list. I have no idea. Maybe for people who are casual in politics, unlike me and the people that I know that I interact with, that do not do the deep dives, that sees these press conferences not for what they are, these little briefings, but just are desperate to hear anything positive, regardless if it's true or not. So Trump gets a bump, regardless of the fact that he's not telling you the truth. Or he's not even allowing his team to tell you the truth. That he has to contradict while they have to correct in real time in front of his damn pudgy face. He's Baghdad bobbing it for you. But I guess you like that. I guess you want to be told everything is going to be okay, instead of being told what you need to be told and allowing yourself to make it okay for yourself. When I was going to do this earlier, I was pissed off. Not just at Trump, I was pissed off at everyone. It's like, how are you holding this son of a bitching bill up? Are you trying to approve this for us? Are you trying to screw us over because of your precious politics? All of you. All of you. Democrats, Republicans, Trump, all of you. Are y'all just looking for the what's in it for me? What is the angle for me? That's what I was worried about. I was pissed at all of you. Later on, I go to work because I am in one of the vital industries that we have left. I work retail, I work a grocery store, I am one of the people that are feeding your families. So, yeah, I go to work. So I go there, and I see the empty shelves. I see a far lower volume of people coming in and out. Part of me thinks that's a good thing because that means that people got what they need to hunker down. I see people who are scared in this store, and just don't want anyone near them 6 feet, even though they have errors that needs to get corrected, and they're all frustrated. We don't have what they were looking for. When we try to explain to people that, we do get deliveries, and it's just that all the stuff we put out gets gobbled up before noon, so I strongly suggest you get here in the morning. The calls, when are you going to get this in? When are you going to get this in? We don't know, because whatever the trucks roll in is what they have. No one gives us an itemized list what's on the truck before they arrive, so we can't tell you what's going to get here or what's not. We're just going to have to guesstimate depending upon the volume of trucks that come and what's being put on the trucks and what's being sent out. That aside, going through days and days of this, where you're just saturated in being amongst people who are worried, amongst people who have wearing masks and worrying about getting sick, or worrying, for a good person, worrying about even if you have something or you don't have something, you don't want to be responsible to giving it out to anybody else. I posted there is a simple social rule when it comes to social distancing. Don't treat people like they got something and you're avoiding them because you don't want to catch what they got. Treat people like you're avoiding them because you don't want to give anything to them. Don't dehumanize people. Don't make people feel like they're pariah. Give them respectful distance because you are projecting that you do not want to be responsible for getting them sick. But, day after day after day, you go through this, hour after hour, you go through this, you watch the news, you watch the tally rise, and that does something to you, that does hit you in your soul. So the rage that I felt initially transmuted into, something of depression and even hopelessness on us. I've said in previous videos on this particular topic that my fear in all this for myself, if God forbid that I caught this, my fear is not what would happen to me. I'm aware that I'd get sick, and it would suck that it would not be a pleasant experience to be isolated in a room and feeling like, I'm alone in this. And just taking what you need to take, and we're hoping for the best of writing it out. Because regardless of my physical conditioning, I do feel like I could write it out. My fear is being responsible for other people getting sick. And there are people in this world, no matter how old they are, because we have to get into that for a moment. No matter how old they are, you don't know what somebody's physical makeup is. You don't know if someone has a strong immune system, someone has a damaged immune system, someone just has factors against them that makes them compromised, that would make it little more than just a flu for them, that make it be deadly for them. You don't know. So, me going to work with hundreds of people coming in and out for 6 to 8 hours, not knowing that you're sick or not, because that's the insidious thing. It's what we know, because we don't know as much as we should at this point. That if you catch it, you don't feel a thing, and you're shedding the virus while you don't feel a thing. And the first thing you feel is cold symptoms, and you feel flu symptoms, and you still feel, hey, that can't possibly be that. And then you start getting chest pains, and you start getting blurry vision, and then all of a sudden, this is a little bit different. Then it's too late. So yeah, now I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between the depression and the being angered. And I don't get the approval rating for this person who gives you misinformation. I don't get the approval rating for somebody who argues about governors who, at the time when Washington was the one that was getting hit the hardest at the time, that despite Mike Pence praising Inslee, as you should do in a fucking crisis, that Donald Trump goes, well, he's still a snake. Fuck you. What's wrong with you? There's one thing to put a positive spin on things. There's another thing entirely to shine people on. And he's doing that. I guess people just want to get snowed. They want to hear the vague notion of everything is going to be okay, instead of being told the truth, being told what you need to be doing to make it okay. Do you not want to put the effort in to make it okay for yourself and your family that you need to hear? You need to hear some vague reassurance that has no basis in reality? Now, certain Republicans have said of the minor risk of getting the coronavirus, the minor amount of people that would die from it, and wondering why we need to stop our economy, our precious capitalism, because of just a few people dying. Only 3.2% of our population, that's all. That's all. What are you worried about that? That's also 3.2%. As of yesterday, in the global census of our population says 329 million plus. Divide that by 3.2. Those are millions of Americans that would die. Do you not do fucking math? Is it just that easy for you to just brush off millions of people for the sake of your economy? And this president is going along with this concept. I mean, we're still on camera downplaying it, contradicting your own self, contradicting your own guidelines because, social distancing is not very helpful. To what? To the political prospects? So he wants us to be back up and running in our businesses and going back to work by Easter. He wants people crammed into churches on Easter. Does he know something that even our experts don't know? I know his fan base will go, yeah, of course he does. Dude, we live in reality. Our experts, our scientists, and our doctors, those who are undermanned, undersupplied, tell us that the peak of this thing, we might not reach that till at least May at the earliest. And he wants us to get back to being normal by Easter. Those churches may as well be petri dishes for coronavirus cultures to be spread around while people are comparing clothing in church. As soon as I heard that yesterday, I immediately flashed to a picture of Trump wearing a goddamn gray suit with little anchors on it and telling people to get back into the water because he's the mayor from Jaws. And why? For the country's sake? No. For his sake. It's an election year. Like it was an election year for that mayor. He wants you going back into the water. Even though there's a shark there waiting for you. He was hoping and praying the shark won't attack anyone. The mayor wasn't like that. He didn't care. He didn't want anyone hurt. And I'll give Donald Trump this. I don't think he doesn't want anyone to get hurt. He doesn't want to get anyone sick. As deranged as I am, I know that. But the thing is that he is thinking too much inwardly towards himself. And there are examples of this. This is not just, flying off the handle because Trump is Trump. He's telling governors not to put out unemployment numbers. He wants people to lie to you so you won't hear how much of a financial hit. The spiffy, solid gold unemployment numbers that he was touting beforehand. He doesn't want anyone to see the reality of that now, because that might hurt him politically. And you know what the irony is? Because of this crisis, that probably wouldn't hurt him politically because we understand it. That is not a failing of this White House. That's not a failing of this president. They're bringing unemployment numbers going skyrocketing potentially. That's not his fault, because that is the effect of the coronavirus and people being scared to get sick. That has nothing to do with him. but it makes it a part of him when he tells people to lie. This is one of those things, this is one of those weird things in politics that he seems to run into all the time. It's the it is a Nixon era syndrome where the cover-up, the lie, is bigger than the issue. Because it makes it worse. You know, why are you doing that? Why are you covering that up? We understand that we're going to be taking a hit. It is only a reflection on you when you're telling people to lie about it. You don't have to. We understand that. You know, people get on me for being so anti-Trump. And I understand that. You know, I don't have such blinders on that I don't understand that people do like this guy and maybe have some valid points to liking this guy from their point of view. I also see people who do not know anything about actual politics, only got into politics because Trump was there, and is oh, I'm so gung-ho of Trump, and when you ask them about his policies, they look at you with deer in the headlights, and they can't defend when he does shit. They just want to support him. They're not, and they don't care about what he actually says and he actually does. So there's that. But come on. This would not be his fault if it wasn't for his actions to cover it up. When he downplays things, when he misrepresents, when doctors have to, in front of him, correct him. Not saying that he's wrong. Just saying, no, the president just said that. No. Not even mentioning his name, not even mentioning he was wrong, but nonetheless giving the right, accurate information that, no, that's, no. Stay home. No. If you're feeling sick, stay home. If you're worried about being compromised, if you have issues that affects your immune system, then stay home. As I said, there are people out there, in a way like Trump, but worse because they should know better, who do say that, you know, the grandparents would sacrifice for the economy, for going back, for people wanting to work. So we're going to just put all the elderly on the ice floe known as coronavirus, and we're just going to get that stock market running again. That lieutenant governor, in Texas, who's like, I'm all in. I'll risk my life. Well, that's good because you're rich and you probably have a good healthcare program, so that even if you do catch it at your age, and it could be a risk, the risk is somewhat minor because you have a good enough healthcare that you probably have a ventilator, that you probably have a staff around you, a medical staff that all have masks and all has the proper equipment, because it's your life. It's not the life of some other 70-year-old or 80-year-old who, probably does not have the resources that you have. So yeah, you can risk your life. Good for you. The Glenn Becks can risk their lives. Good for fucking him. Brit Hume, who says it's a completely reasonable viewpoint that some grandparents could accept the sacrifice. Oh yeah, I talked to a few people of that age one night here, and they say, yeah, go fuck yourself. We're not sacrificing our lives for the sake of the economy. It's nice for you to volunteer people's lives for the sake of that stock ticker to keep ticking away. But it's not your life to volunteer up. I've been seeing compare and contrasts from our different illnesses that we've had in the past 10 or so years, namely the swine flu one, where a significant amount of people were contracted it, significant amount of people died from it, and people are going, why is everyone worrying about this when they didn't worry about that then? Because it is called hindsight and it's called experience. Is that what the mistakes that happened that caused so many deaths then, we remember. And then we take steps to try to prevent it, which is why we're doing these shelters in place, why are we doing these partial shutdowns of cities and states, why the certain states, including mine in Virginia, have closed school for the rest of the year in fucking March. Because we learn from our experience. I know in politics, we're supposed to all have short-term memory loss, so we are supposed to forget when a president or a presidential candidate has said something in the past that is not very advantageous right now. As we already seen and categorized for all the shit that Joe Biden has said since the 1970s. Or Bernie Sanders said, or any one of these people, whoever got into the front line and the microscope got into their face and they were looking at the skeletons in their closets. Yeah, we're supposed to have the short-term memory loss, so we're going to forget, the mistakes that we made in the past. So when we are presented with a crisis now, and people are going back and saying, why didn't we do that? Well, look at them. They were doing all that. Why are you blaming it on us? You just did that. Fuck you, first of all. We learn from our mistakes. We try to... we remember when things happen, and we try to make correct measures for it. Why is there a lunacy? Why is there a panic? There's two versions of panic in this. The street level, the ground level, the people who are scared because they're getting misinformation, who takes that fear, and instead of getting what they need from their family, are hoarding what they need for themselves because then they can make a few money, a few extra dollars in buying excess stuff and then hawking it for a much higher price for the desperate. The other half of your precious capitalism is your price gouging. So families who have to spend $1,000 on food righteously because they have to be hunkered down for a month because they're supporting an ailing member of their family. So a wife and a husband and 4 kids will have to be stuck in the house just to make sure that those kids' grandparent doesn't die from exposure to this and would because they're immune compromised. So they're making the sacrifice. So when they buy $1,000 plus of food and when you have 5 carts of stuff, then you say, God bless, and I hope to see you in a month. But when you see people, when we're running out of eggs, and you see like one guy just buy the last 12 packs of eggs, are you thinking, gee, he's gonna be making a lot of omelets? Or are you thinking, this is our modern day human nature that I'm here, you're not, they're here, so I'm buying all that, and fuck you for being another human being who's gonna be without, because I got mine, screw you. I got mine, screw you. That should be placed on a libertarian flag. Especially when we see the behavior of Rand Paul. I'm flying off on tangents because I am fucking ranting. And ranting doesn't have a chronological order. It is whatever comes through my head. And at this moment, we're going to talk about Rand Paul. Because it occurs to me how Karma and her sister's irony could have a sense of humor. Now, no one wants to see anybody sick. No one wants to see anyone suffer, and God forbid no one wants to see anybody die. When a person who takes it upon himself to be the champion of the libertarian aspects of, if you're able to get what you want, No one should be able to criticize you for it. You shouldn't have to help anyone because that's what liberty is. You know, what Rand's father says when he talks about on Twitter the coronavirus hoax. When you're the son of that, and when we start putting together this corona package relief, and the first thing we are putting together is paid sick leave on its own, and he stands up and says, I object. That's one point. When the first coronavirus bill filtered out from the House into the Senate, he stood up again and said, I object. And then we find out that he's tested positive for corona. For your COVID-19, for your Chinese flu, for your Wuhan virus. This guy, when he found out, and that morning, went to the Senate gym, went on the machines, was amongst people, swam in their pool, who comes out and defends being so public and not self-isolating initially, because according to the guidelines, I didn't feel sick, so therefore I shouldn't have to do that, so I went everywhere. I'm sure I touched everyone I could. Because that's what freedom is. I paraphrase the last part, but yeah, I may as well say that because that's what he would say. So when someone like that, who doesn't give a shit about you getting sick, and making sure doesn't care that you should get benefits or not, because you should be able to do it yourself, and leave him alone on his Ponderosa, and he tests positive, that is a fucking funny irony. And it is funny because he has the resources and he has the money that he can ride out the symptoms and he could be fine. Where people of his age or older who do not have the resources, that he doesn't want to have the resources, could suffer and die. So excuse me all to hell if I point that fucking thing out. And we hear about Harvey Weinstein catching it. And the irony in that. And we should feel sorry for him. Yeah, I feel sorry that some foreign entity, some pestilence, decided to, without consent, penetrate his person and infect him without his consent, without him giving a choice. Oh, darn for him. And given the age of some of his victims, he was either going to be coronavirus that would be catching up with him, or the Gen Pop that would see the old guy in the walker and see a short eye and having a little party with him. I'm not disproportionately pissed at one or the other, not even Trump. I have been giving Trump a little bit more leniency, more benefit of the doubt than I normally do. But his propensity of mischaracterizing what's going on, downplaying what's going on, encouraging people that we're going to be back up and running by Easter. Which, in the irony, is the governors have control over their own states. So they're not going to reopen because Donnie wants it to be reopened. You know, those who are going to follow through with it will follow through with it because they're just sycophants towards the Trump. That's fine. Mississippi, Alabama, whatever, can do that. And then they can scratch their heads as to wondering why they're still having people getting sicker and sicker. Governor Cuomo makes out a passion plea for help for his state. And Trump replies, well, 2 years ago we could have given you ventilators, but you didn't want them now. People are fucking dying. And they are dying in New York, and they're catching this in greater numbers in New York right now because it is a highly populated, tightly packed, especially in New York City, but the state in general. Jersey is already starting to get this. The other states are starting to get this. I have to go through the updates of how Virginia is doing, but given that we closed our schools and we are not doing non-essential activities outside, if you want to get anything from restaurants, you better do carry out or delivery because you're not dining in. Your recreations are all closed off. I'm glad to see the movie industry is moving to the point of like now their movies are coming out is going to come out on demand. So that's cool for them to do that. But I can understand the sadness of the movie theaters being closed because there is a special feeling when it comes when you're going out to the movies. Instead of like sitting at home and watching a movie on TV or on DVD or whatever, you're going out to the movie theater, getting your seats, and maybe you're in there early enough that you're seeing like the ads before the previews, and you start seeing people filing in, and you're all in this together. You're all about to take this ride. And unlike seeing a movie on your TV, where you can control when the movie starts, and you can just instantly, but you're all there together, and the light starts to dim, and then you get the previews. Depending on how major the movie you're watching, the previews could be a couple minutes to 10 minutes because they want to make sure they got enough people in to be able to watch it. And then finally, the lights go out, the intro starts, the movie begins. And you're on for the ride. You have no control over the screen. You're just there watching it. That is a great feeling. That is a feeling that translates from where we are now in our movie age to going back to when people went to the theater or they went to watch the opera and so forth, going back in time. It is that feeling of everyone getting together, and it's that feeling of not only watching a movie but the community that is watching the movie together, that we're all experiencing this at the same time. And that's one of those unfortunate things about this that we just lose. We obviously will get it back when this blows over, but until then, it's kind of sad. But it's one thing to comment that is a positive byproduct of what's going on worldwide. When you hear about China shutting down and hunkering down and to stem the tide of the counts of coronavirus, which they're actually doing, the cases have trickled down, the deaths have trickled down. But an interesting byproduct of that is that when you see the satellite photos, China, because they shut down the perpetual pollution in their major cities, gone. What is even more fantastic of this weird irony is that you look at Venice. Venice, obviously being one of the unique cities in the world, that it's a city on a canal. So it's just waterlogged. Because of Venice being shut down, unfortunately, because of what's going on in Italy, satellite photos of the water, because there's no boat shop, there is no one actively, perpetually, incidentally doing pollution in the water. The water is clear. And not only the water is clearer and cleaner, fish are showing up in Venice again. That's amazing. It's a renewal of life, and even in the midst of this crisis. And what's the symbol for crisis? The Chinese symbol for crisis is the mixture of two. It's chaos and opportunity. And the opportunity presented itself for nature's children to show up in the water again. And the sad part, of course, is that everything, when this blows over, we're going to return back to our normal lives. And, whatever lessons we learn from this is just out of our heads. So, in China, the pollution will go back up to its monstrous levels where people were wearing face masks before there was a coronavirus. And people will take to their boats in Venice. And the renewal of life will be gone again. But it is an interesting thing from that. What's going on. Alright, kind of close this up. We really shouldn't be playing politics. We really shouldn't be, and these people in the position of power look at this as what's in it for me, or how does it affect me, when you are in a position to worry about other people. This president is only looking out for himself, and you praise him for it. He doesn't care about you. I am not being mad about this. I'm not being hysterical about this. I'm trying to tell you, does not care. He's worried about himself. He's worried about his presidential election. We see and hear so many articles of him trying to get a frickin' trademark for a vaccine, so that when the vaccine does develop, it will be his name on it. So you will remember that this president was the savior of your lives right before an election. The German company that he was trying to get the material from, they're denying it now. I'm not surprised they're denying it now. But he wanted so desperately to get their material so he could trademark it. Why is it that we are not participating with the WHO? While globally they look for a vaccine and they look for a way of fixing this. Why are we not looking towards Israel? Why are we not looking towards Japan? Why are we looking towards ourselves while our resources are beleaguered? Why did President Trump mention the Defense Production Act a few days ago, while he had all those CEOs around him, and then doesn't do it for days? He gets defensive when you ask him, why aren't you doing this? And then says something weird about, not wanting to privatize this, or he doesn't want the federal government involved in this or that. This is a crisis. When he finally enacts it, then I, without irony, will say, thank you, President Trump. And he has, so thank you, President Trump, for doing that. Putting the federal resources into creating masks and all the other materials. But still, why are people needing to beg? Why do they need to genuflect and say you're a great guy in order to get suitable amount of ventilators or hospital beds? How is it that you tout these two medical ships? Oh, these big white ships with the red crosses. They're gonna go up and down. While only have 1,000 beds to them. But these are the savior ships? I mean, who's gonna be on this? Are this even involving coronavirus? I said this in a previous video that, if Trump does the right thing, even if it's in for the wrong motivation, it's still the right thing to be done in this time and means of an end. Which is why it pisses me off so much upon all these politicians, Democrat and Republican, screwing each other over on this corona relief package. We need a clear-cut, clean bill that gives us benefit now. Then you can haggle over the other stuff. There's a poster on Middle America. His name is Ben, who came up with this novel idea, and I'm surprised no one thought of this in politics. And he has a pretty out there point of view on certain things. But, in no uncertain terms, he says, why not just have 3 bills? Have a bill for the people, make sure they get the direct deposit, those particular checks. Have another bill for small businesses, and then have a big business bill that you all could fight over, but make the people the number one thing. Take care of us. Then take care of the mom and pop businesses, and then take care of your precious CEOs and your golden parachutes. I'm not going to understand why Trump is getting a higher approval rating for this. I'm going to acknowledge that he does. I'm not here saying in delusion or derangement, no, he doesn't. No, I understand he does. I understand that's what the numbers say. I don't understand why, though. All he has done is misrepresent what's going on. All he has done is lie to you. All he's done is dragged his feet in having the proper resources to give to the people that need it. And encouraging falsehoods. And so eager to get us back in business, regardless of the fact that we're going to be having this virus circulating and percolating throughout our country and throughout the world for weeks to months from now. I want everyone to be safe. I want everyone to be healthy. I want everyone, no matter who the fuck you vote for, I don't give a shit. You're human beings. I want you all to be safe. I don't want you to treat anybody like they're lepers. Like I wouldn't want anyone to treat me like a leper. I'm just trying to help you out. We shouldn't have to be scared to death of our loved ones or our friends when they spike a fever. And that little bit of worry in our heads that if we get sick and we ask for help and our government says no, or they shine you on, very soon, very, very soon, it'll be all better very, very soon, while you're sitting in your bed, trying to breathe because you have no ventilator, barely getting help because your medical personnel don't have masks, and you're just fortunate to have a bed, but people are waiting in line for that bed, so you better get better, you better die because someone else is waiting. Necessity is the mother of invention. Well, there's a lot of necessity. So allow invention. Help each other out here. Love y'all. The ranter rants because his urge to rant is always rising. Stay safe, everyone.